Hey guys, Pete here. The Battle of Winterfell is now over, and this will be a top moments recap video. Just a quick one. Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 3 was one of the most anticipated episodes of all time, and after watching it, I believe it's going to turn out to be one of the most divisive episodes of all time as well. So many good theories died on that battlefield outside Winterfell tonight when the Night King was defeated and his entire army dropped. But there will be plenty of time to get into the details of the episode when I do my recap and review later this week. For now, let's look at the top moments together and you can discuss how you feel about the episode in the comments. Number 10, Melisandre's return. This was expected as it felt pretty clear that she had a role to play in the fight against the White Walkers. She arrived just in time for the start of the clash, and her lighting the Dothraki weapons ablaze was definitely one of my favorite moments of the episode. Of course, things didn't turn out well for the Dothraki, who seemed to have been wiped out as they attacked the army of the dead completely. And I do fear that even though it would have happened off screen, that we should add Ghost to the list of casualties here. Rip Ghost will never forget. Number 9, Ed saving Sam. This whole fighting sequence was done really well as we see the chaos of the Whites attacking from what feels like every direction. We get to see Dolorous Ed save his Night's Watch brother in the nick of time, but unfortunately he pays the ultimate price for it, and now his watch has ended. Number 8, Barrack's death. Arya found herself in a dangerous situation being swarmed by Whites inside of Winterfell. Even though she proved her fighting skills outside just before this happened, she found herself in need of rescuing once she was indoors. Barrack and the Hound step up to help her to safety, but Barrack is mortally wounded in the process. After he falls, Melisandre tells Arya that the Lord of Light brought him back for a purpose. Now that purpose has been served. So no kiss of life for Barrack to give out, and he won't be coming back either this time. While it wasn't the most dramatic death in the episode, I did like that at least for Barrack, in the end he did something purposeful. His death gets Arya safely to Melisandre, and that leads to the next moment. Number 7, Melisandre and Arya meet again. Everyone in this room has been on Arya's list of people she wanted to kill. Melisandre earned a place on it by taking Gendry away back in Season 3, and we've anticipated their reunion ever since. In it, they refer back to that episode where Melisandre told Arya that she would shut many eyes forever. Melisandre says brown eyes, green eyes, and blue eyes. Emphasis on the blue eyes. Then she delivers a callback to Arya's water dancing teacher Syrio Forel. She says, "What do we say to the god of death?" Arya says, "Not today," and takes off running. Number 6, Lyanna Mormont's death. Of all the character deaths we expected to see, it was a little hard to decide if they would go to killing off Lyanna Mormont or not. She's a freaking kid, but that wasn't enough to spare her. She went down fighting and took out a white giant with her on the way, and it was a pretty sad occasion. This was a death that shocked me the most and probably delivered the biggest emotional blow. While some of the other characters hurt more and were more important in how they were essential to the story, I just didn't see this one coming. Number 5, the Whites overtaking the castle walls. At the end of the day, this was one of the most well put together episodes of TV I've ever seen. In this section of the Whites where they start to go through the trench, start to get over the walls, start to drop down into the yard, a la the way we saw them come off the cliff into Hardhome. It was kind of just a well-polished, chaotic, devastating, frightening. It was just a horror show, and it had a great impact, and it made you wonder how the hell they were going to get out of it. Number 4, the Night King raising the Whites. We had been anticipating this would happen since the actor who plays the Night King mentioned that him and Jon were going to have a bigger moment than what happened at Hardhome. And this time Jon was stuck in the middle of it. I thought that is what made this work. Even though I didn't really expect Jon to die, it was a crazy situation that he found himself in. And we'd all been wondering who might become Whites, how that might go. And we saw that Ed was turned and little Lyanna Mormont was turned, and basically everybody else who fell in the battle. I'm not sure this is the payoff that fans were looking for as far as people turning into Whites was concerned, but it seems like that's all that they're going to get. Either way, the Night King raising his arms once again worked for me as it did the first time I saw it, and I thought that was a pretty good moment. Number 3, Jorah Mormont's death. I had Jorah high on my list of people who would probably die in this episode. I'm thinking most other people did as well. So it wasn't shocking, but it was a fitting end for Jorah. He got to die defending his queen. Since we saw him outside the wall, it was hard to imagine that there would be a situation where he would be literally defending his queen, like right in front of her, as it all played out in the show. So if Jorah had to go, then I think this was pretty good. And I thought Ian Glenn and Emilia Clarke both delivered a memorable performance. So rip Jorah. Number 2 is Theon's death. Obviously, I'm mentioning the deaths because of the impact they had as we were watching the show. After episode 2, it started to feel like Theon wasn't likely to make it through the battle, and I really made peace with the fact that he would die in this episode before it even started. I looked at it like, hey, he had his moment when he came back. He stepped up, and now he's not going to have much of a chance to live in this situation. He signed up for protecting Bran, which puts him right in a really dangerous spot. I don't know how I feel about the end of his story related to the end of this episode, but I really liked that Bran told him that he was a good man. I really liked that he got that moment and then he still charged the Night King, even though it wasn't going to make a bit of difference, and he pretty much knew that going into it. So rip Theon Greyjoy, you're a good man. And number 1 is the stare down between Bran and the Night King. Of course, this leads into Arya stabbing the Night King and effectively wiping out the White Walkers, which is, like I said, going to be probably the most divisive thing that we've seen in this TV series history. I didn't follow along on Twitter or do any of that kind of stuff, but I did see some comments, but yeah, I have a feeling that people won't like the fact that Arya is the one who did this, and probably they won't like that it happened in episode 3 at all. In spite of all of that, I still think that Bran and the Night King having their stare down was an awesome moment. I think it was fantastic. And that's where the list will end. And I have to watch it again. What I can say for sure right now is that it was fantastic looking. It was a great looking episode. It definitely was a twist compared to what most people said. Other things that were really good here was the sound and the music. Some of it seemed incredibly dark and hard to see. Some of it seemed really chaotic and it was hard to figure out what was going on. I have to watch again to see how that plays out on the second viewing. I'm in that spot, in that space that you get into when you really think you have an idea and you have theories that you like and they all turn out to be wrong. I mean, I wrote 2,000 words or so yesterday on a video that I ended up not doing, and it was about what comes after this. And the reason I didn't finish it was because it just was so hard to imagine that the Night King would die. You know, my arguments were all leaning towards him staying in, and the video was going to have a really short shelf life if it turned out this way. But yeah, I don't know what they have in store in the back end. I looked at the trailer. We see that the dragons are both still alive, and they're definitely making Cersei the big bad as far as we can tell. I don't hate that idea, but this does feel abrupt. I'm really just mourning theories right now. I hope that there's a good reason that it had to be this way. I'm not like reactionary to the point of like, this is the end, that was it, they can't redeem themselves from this, because it was a fantastic looking episode, that especially the Melisandre stuff and the battle itself. But I mean, it looks like we lost Ghost off, like he just charged into the battle by himself and that's the last we'll ever see of him. I don't see that being popular. In the writing about Cersei being the big bad, I thought to myself, they have to top this. That's the real problem, is that they have to top what has been billed as what we expected to be the final showdown, the big ending of the White Walkers. So if they have that in their back pocket and they're able to do that, then I'm on board with it. But it's not what we were expecting. Let's face it. I don't see Arya being the person who killed the Night King being popular. And that's for a few reasons, but really it just didn't seem what was telegraphed. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine who's a big fan, but maybe not not as deep into the theory side of things, and he actually made a pretty good point of why he thought it might be Arya based on stuff that they've shown us. For instance, her besting Brienne whenever they were sparring in the yard, and she did do all of the training necessary to be a skilled warrior at this point, but it just didn't really seem like that was the way it was going to go. But overall with the Arya stuff, I think we could go back and say there was foreshadowing, like we could piece it together, but it really wasn't. I don't think anybody thought that this was going to turn out this way. So it's going to be divisive. That's just the only thing there is to say about it. But that is where I'll end things. I don't want to drone on. I have a trailer breakdown to do, and then I want to rewatch and really get into it and see how I feel on the second watch and the third watch. I'll be interested to hear what you guys thought of the episode and what moments you really thought stood out. So leave that in the comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel to follow along. I will be doing the trailer breakdown next, and then I will do a full recap and review. Thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you soon.